Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will get our forum underway. To start, I'd like to introduce the PUSD School Board President, TJ Zane, and he will lead us in the flag salute. Please rise.
Thank you, Christine. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is TJ Zane, and I'm president of the Poway Unified Board of Education. At this time, I'd like to briefly just recognize my fellow board members in attendance this evening. I think they're throughout the hall. Dr. Patel, Vice President Dr. Patel. Do I see Charles Sellers? Trustee Sellers, is he here? Trustee Kimberly Beatty, right over here. And Trustee Michelle O'Connor-Ratcliffe. Thank you for being here. Sure, why not? Round of applause. Also, briefly, just to recognize some other VIPs in attendance this evening, we have District Attorney Summer Steffen. Summer, thank you so much for being here. And round of applause for Summer, of course. And we're going to, right now, just give the opportunity in the process of recognizing him, Mayor Steve Voss from Poway, invite him and Sheriff Bill Gore to come up for just a moment to talk about something that we've been working on the past week. Some of you may have seen it on social media. But Mayor Voss has a city council meeting in Poway to get to, so we're going to give him an opportunity to say a few words here with Sheriff Gore. Mayor?
Thank you, TJ. Thank you all for being here. It is so important that you're here to share the information and concerns and ask your questions. So I'm delighted to see so many people here. I doubt it's any surprise to you that government or bureaucracy typically doesn't move very quickly. But we busted that premise in the last week. 6 days ago, I had this crazy idea that we needed a hotline. It's not enough to just say, see something, say something. You got to know who to say it to when you see it. So I got together with city staff and then with the sheriff's department and then with TJ and the superintendent. And in the space of 6 days, and also San Diego PD today, in the space of 6 days, we had all 4 jurisdictions on board with a new tip line, where if you have a concern about an individual that impacts your school, or if your kid has a concern, if you're a staff member, whoever you are, if you have a concern, call the number 844-PUSD-TIP. That will go directly, your message will go directly to law enforcement for them to take appropriate action. So make a note of that number, make sure your kids have that number. Remember too, you can be anonymous when you call. We're not looking to drag you into the whole thing. So 844-PUSD-TIP, if you think it's important, get it to us and law enforcement will take the appropriate action. Thanks again for being here. Here's Sheriff Gore.
Thank you, Steve. This is what good community policing is all about. When the schools and the parents and law enforcement all come together with our highest priority of keeping our kids safe. So thank you all for being here. Just to add quickly onto what Steve said, we have the tip line. But if you have an emergency, you pick up that phone, you call 911. If you think there's immediate threat to somebody, I guarantee you there's not a more serious call, a more serious situation to law enforcement than what we've seen around the country all too often lately. So those calls will be taken seriously. We will work every one of them like they're a credible threat until we prove it's not a credible threat. I'm standing up here talking for the office of the San Diego Police Department too, because as you know, you live in this area, Poway Unified School District is Sheriff's Department, it's Police Department, and I want you to know that things don't slip through the cracks between our 2 agencies. We work together, we have a protocol, our protocols are together, we train together, and we share information, and that's the way we keep this community safe. So thank you all for being here. Like I say, we're going to be fine when I look around this audience and I see this kind of turnout, and thank you for the San Diego Police Department, your great support up here. It really is a team effort, so thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Captain Knighton. And just like was alluded to clear up any sort of confusion that was out there, we had just a little bit of a delay. We got the Sheriff's Department was on board with the tip line, and then had a great conversation today with Captain Knighton, and he's on board. So you know when someone calls that tip line, it's a recorded message, and it gets sent directly to the Deputy Sheriff Station in Poway, as well as to Captain Knighton in the Northeastern Division here in the City of San Diego Police Department. So between the two of them, the two departments there, they're able to figure out how to best address the issue that was raised in the phone call. I mentioned my role on the board, but more importantly, I'm a parent of a PUSD high school freshman right here at Mount Carmel, a transitional kindergartner, and a preschooler. I want to share with you how pleased I am with Superintendent Marion Phelps and district staff for pulling this forum together so quickly and doing such a wonderful job too. We had nearly 800 RSVPs. There may still be some folks trickling in. But to think that early last week when I asked let's pull something together, that within hours, I was in a meeting, and before I left the meeting, Dr. Phelps had a draft flyer for me to review. That is how quickly district staff jumped all over this and got this pulled together this week. So I want to commend district staff for that. How about a round of applause for Dr. Phelps and district staff? I believe the information that will be shared by representatives from the Sheriff's Department, SDPD, and district administrators will be very helpful for those interested in learning what PUSD is currently doing and plans to do to address school and student safety. And another multi-jurisdictional effort that you'll learn about soon, I think it may be touched upon later on in the program this evening, is an effort I'm working on with San Diego City Councilman Mark Kersey and San Diego City Councilman Chris Cate, as well with the City of Poway, to really kind of tap into the existing RSVP, or Retired Senior Volunteer Patrol program within the City of San Diego Police Department, to do patrols on our school campuses as part of their regular, their beat, if you will. The recommendations we gather from those in attendance tonight will be invaluable in helping the district make additional improvements that are in line with community expectations. I am deeply committed to ensuring our schools are a safe and secure place for our children to grow and learn, and so is the rest of the board. This must remain the district's #1 priority. Nothing else is more important. A reassuring email, a board resolution like we'll be adopting this Thursday, and a community forum are still only single steps in the right direction. Our actions will not begin and end with these 3 things. We will follow through, we will take action, we will continually make our schools safer. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Phelps, who will MC the rest of the program. Thank you again for coming.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Marion Kim Phelps. I'm the Poway Unified School District Superintendent. It is my pleasure and honor to serve all of you and your children. I am so glad that all of you are here tonight. The fact that we had so many people respond truly and come out this evening truly shows us how much that you care and how much that you care about our children and our schools. So I am a mother of an 11-year-old, and every day when she goes to school, I expect that she will be safe. Her campus should be an environment where she can learn and grow and thrive, free from fear. And at the end of the day, that's all we want. As the leadership team and as a school board and as a superintendent, many of us are here speaking tonight are either parents or grandparents of a child who attend or have attended or are currently attending our schools. So this hits home for all of us. It is also very clear that it matters to our city leaders, our law enforcement, which you can see from their strong presence here tonight. So I want to thank our police, our sheriff, our partners for coming. I see Sheriff Gore and his team, the San Diego County District Attorney, Summer Stefan, Deputy District Attorney Lopez, San Diego Police Captain Christopher Knighton and his team, our Mayor Steve Voss from Poway, and Councilman Mark Kersey from San Diego. Initially, we had planned tonight's forum as a town hall style question and answer meeting, but due to the large number of responses, we were forced to change our venue and change the location, as well as the format of our meeting in order to accommodate the large number of people who had showed interest in attending. Thank you for submitting your questions to us in advance so that we could answer as many as possible during tonight's presentation. All of the questions that you submitted have been taken in consideration as specific questions shape the topics that we'll be covering tonight under 4 broad categories: preparedness, prevention, response, and recovery. If at any time that you have additional questions during tonight's presentation, please visit the PUSD homepage and click on the School Safety Forum questions. We will have someone monitoring them as they come in. And please keep in mind, we will not be able to get to every single one of these questions this evening. However, we are working to follow up on a FAQ and information sheet to share out on the district website following tonight's meeting, as well as a video that we will be recording this meeting this evening for those who could not attend. Also, if you have questions specific to your child's school site, please direct them to your school principal. And at the end of this presentation, we will also be sharing upcoming dates that your specific school sites will conduct a safety forum as well. I want to assure you that our schools are still one of the safest places for your children to be. But even one child injured in a school shooting is one too many. So we will work to be as proactive as possible in our prevention, preparedness, our response, and recovery. But we need your help. Keeping our schools safe is a community-wide effort. I want to thank all of you for coming and for your support of our schools, and I hope that you find tonight's presentation to be helpful and informative. I would also like to thank all of the staff who helped me to put this together this evening. So I want to introduce Mr. Todd Casson, our Executive Director of Learning Support Services. He'll come to the stage to present some background information and PUSD historical timeline to our safety measures and efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Good evening, Poway Unified community members. How are we doing tonight? Thank you so much for being here. As I said, my name is Todd Casson. I'm an Executive Director in Learning Support Services, part of a wonderful team that's working on an annual basis to keep our students safe. But I want to take you back about 23 years ago when I started in this district. When I first looked at it, as a teacher in my classroom at Poway High School, we were prepared for 2 drills. We were prepared for a fire drill, and we were prepared for an earthquake drill. At no time as a teacher did I ever think I was going to need to be prepared for anything else. Unfortunately, the tragedies that took place at both Columbine and Virginia Tech put in motion numerous additions to our safety protocols and procedures. However, it was the most recent unspeakable loss of life at Sandy Hook Elementary that directly led to numerous changes throughout our district. One of the first steps our district took was to bring together a committee of first responders and district administrators to review our current practices and discuss potential changes in protocols moving forward. Out of those meetings came the need to walk and complete an assessment for each of our 39 campuses, which directly led to the numerous changes you will find in our district today. These include the installation of an automated visitor check-in system at all sites, locking campus gates after school starts and remaining closed throughout the school day, darkening window film tint on all windows without blinds, classroom doors changed to lock from the inside instead of the outside, panic bars installed on ingress and egress gates, fencing improvements on numerous campuses throughout the district, annual review of each site's comprehensive school site safety plan, all staff badges to be worn when on PUSD property, updates to district protocols for responses to emergencies in order to align with the law enforcement response procedures, additional counseling hours at and positions at our elementary, middle, and high schools, the addition of a bullying prevention curriculum to elementary and middle schools, and the updating of our crisis response manuals and training for our staff. It was also at this time our district took its initial steps to begin to look further into and transition our staff to an options-based response to an active shooter situation. Last year, all site-level administrators were required to attend an armed assailant training at our district office. And this year, we are working with the San Diego County Office of Education to continue our training and develop protocols for use at the site level when we begin to train our staff, students, and community members in the months ahead. I'd like for us to welcome up Ms. Fran Halmerson as we head on into the next part. Thank you. Would you like me to stay up here?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Casson. Good evening. As Todd just shared, I'm Fran Halmerson. I am one of 56 counselors at Poway Unified School District. Counselors are a very important resource, not just to our students, but also to our parents and to our staff. We consider that kind of our three-legged stool. One of the things that our counselors in our district do is we follow along with the American School Counseling Association, the 3 domains. And so the 3 domains, as many of you are familiar with probably, academic, career, and personal social. And tonight I'm just going to really be focusing on that personal social. The ratio of counselors, has, as Todd mentioned, has greatly increased. We currently have 27 full-time counselors in our high schools. We have 12 full-time counselors in our middle schools. And elementary counselors were something new to our district after Columbine in 2000. At that time, there was an assembly bill. We had 3 counselors for 21 schools. And fortunately, our district did increase counselors in elementary, and now there are 17 in the 26 elementary schools. School counselors also work collaboratively with other staff. We have student services assistants in the elementary levels. We have student services specialists in the high school levels. And the work that we're all doing is to help our students be successful and lead healthy lives. We talk to them about things such as skills for learning, empathy, problem solving, emotion management, bullying prevention, drug and alcohol prevention, maybe not as much in elementary, but certainly in our middle and high school. Building connections, increasing inclusiveness, working very hard to ensure that all of our students are having the most safe and healthy experience they can have at school. We provide those services either by whole class, or we work with students in smaller groups, and then we'll additionally work with students individually when they're really struggling with something in the personal social area. Parents are a really important part of that 3-legged stool. So we need our parents and our students and our staff. And so we work hard to engage parents in lots of different ways. One of the things that we do at all of our schools is have activities where we invite parents to come in. Every single month, our district is providing parent education opportunities and information nights. Many of those are being sponsored and organized by our Caring Connections Center, which is an amazing resource for families that need some extra help. If students are referred to the Caring Connections Center, they can go in and have a family conference and come up with an action plan to really try to support those students that are struggling the most. As the world has changed, the mental health world has changed, and the mental health needs of our students has changed. And I'm proud to say that really all 56 of our counselors, as well as all of our teachers and staff, work really hard to ensure that our kids feel safe and happy at school. As I mentioned, at the high schools we work with student services specialists, so I want to invite Sheila Hatfield up to share a little bit more about the work that's being done at the high school levels in the way of social emotional. So Sheila.
Thank you, Fran. And good evening, welcome. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. I as well have children that I have raised through the Poway School District. Our family moved here 2 weeks before my oldest child was starting school so that our kids could attend this school district. And they're all now in their 20s and succeeding and doing well. And I think it's because of the strong foundation they got here in Poway. 14 years ago, I was fortunate enough to start as an employee in the Student Services Department. And tonight I'm here to talk to you about the high school Student Services Specialist programs. Poway Unified funds Student Services Specialists at each of our high schools for 28 hours a week. The specialists receive ongoing training in crisis intervention and conflict mediation, creating inclusive school climates as well as prevention-based lessons. Additionally, specialists work on character counts education, Rachel's Challenge cultural sensitivity training, and are an integral part in bringing the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate initiative to our campuses. These programs help to combat bias, bullying, and hatred, and help create and maintain a positive school climate. Setting up support groups is another function of the Student Services Specialists. These groups help students to build their communication skills and self-esteem, to make healthy decisions and set limits, replace negative behaviors with positive alternatives, and help them to achieve academic success. Tobacco, drug, and alcohol cessation and prevention programs are also offered, as well as resources and referrals. Community service opportunities and peer counseling assistance can be accessed at the Student Services Office. Leadership opportunities can be found through school club connections, such as Friday Night Live clubs, that are advised by Student Services Specialists for students interested in social action projects which impact and influence their peers, their school, and their community. Now, parents frequently ask how they could better support our schools in respect to school safety. And on behalf of Student Services, we would suggest that you have conversations on a regular basis with your child. Point out the importance of speaking up and sharing with an adult when you're worried about a classmate. Share and remember the importance of rumor control, and that's a big one. Keep in mind that our school district website is a good reference point for information. Keep the contact information at all of your children's schools up to date in case there ever is a need for us to reach out to you directly. And lastly, please listen to your children and acknowledge their fears and worries that they may have. Then reference all the work that's done by our schools and our districts in order to keep everyone safe. In Poway Unified, all students have a place to belong. I want to thank you for your time, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Greg Mizell, the principal of Del Norte High School.
Bont, 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 bont. Ladies and gentlemen, we're having a fire drill. Do you know what to do? You do, right? You look for the clearly marked exits, and in a safe and orderly way, you make your way out of the building. Okay, the ground is shaking right now. Yep, jolting. It's not going to be, this is going to be here. What do you do? In a space this old, you might panic, right? But here's the good news. You're on a school campus, and thanks to our remarkable leadership team in this district, even a space like this that is old, it's up to code. It's safe, right? Now, in a space like this, the duck, the cover, maybe you heard hold, like, right? Back in the day, if you're a native Californian like I am, we have an idea, right? Get out of enclosed spaces. Get into open spaces where things can't fall on you, right? So, but if I were to suggest to you that we needed to go into a lockdown mode, and if I were to say this were a secure campus mode of that lockdown, would you know what to do? Yeah, well, no. Here's the thing. Secure campus is a new drill. It's a drill that our generation never had to worry about, as Mr. Casson was sharing earlier. What if I told you there was a dynamic threat on campus, that this wasn't a secure campus, but it was actually a full lockdown? Would you know what to do? Here's the thing. Post-Columbine, the landscape on our high school, middle school, elementary, preschool spaces, in public spaces in general, it's changed. It's changed. We have to think about things today that we didn't have to think about when we were in school. It's a little bit scary, although my mom and dad remind me that when they were in school, they had bomb drills, right? Like hiding under a desk is going to keep you safe from a nuclear warhead. All right. So the world did change. The landscape shifted post-Columbine. Here's the thing. Even more changes occurred after Sandy Hook. And I'm pleased to share with you on behalf of the Poway Unified School District that those changes are clearly evident and visible today on our campuses. So a few of the highlights. We have restricted access on all of our campuses. Okay, so it's not to say that every campus is the same in terms of entry point and exit points, but I can tell you post Sandy Hook, we're much more mindful of where the entry and exit points are, and we're much more vigilant in monitoring those spaces. We have district-wide a visitor check-in system. You cannot walk onto our campuses during the school day without being directed to the front office, without having your picture taken, and without having to declare where it is you're going to be going and how long you're estimating you'll be there. Our employees wear badges. Once upon a time, that wasn't necessary. We have school site safety plans and school site safety committees that convene annually, that meet multiple times throughout the year, and that complete vulnerability checklists. They physically walk our campuses. They highlight concerns, areas where we need to make improvements, and they bring those forward. And oftentimes, first responders are a part of this conversation. So we have, I know on our campus, we've had the Rancho Santa Fe Fire Department actually on campus while we're conducting drills. We've had San Diego Sheriff, we've had San Diego PD there and watching, observing, and giving us feedback. I'm not unique in that regard. My principal colleagues have all done similar things. We are encouraging our kids more and more when they see something to say something, and thanks to the work, again, of the Poway Unified School District and the cooperating agencies, it's easier now than ever to report, right? You heard earlier the unveiling of the tip line. Post Sandy Hook, this district made an incredible investment in a mass communication system. We called it initially Connect Ed. Today, you know it as Connect 5. We can send you a voicemail. I can send it to anybody in my community at my school, right? From my cell phone. Like from my cell phone. I can send you an email. I can send you an obnoxious message. Hey, this is Greg Mizell, principal of Del Norte High School, home of the... If you're a Nighthawk, you know what I'm saying. We're hoping soon to add the text feature to that tool. Like we're hoping that that's going to be an added feature very soon that we'll have. We enjoy incredibly strong support from local law enforcement. I can tell you at my site, whenever there's been a need, a threat, right? We'll call it a dynamic threat or the hint of a dynamic threat, the response has been fast. I don't necessarily have a designated full-time student resources officer on my campus, but when I ask for help, I get sheriffs and San Diego PD in minutes on my campus. Like it's evident. Everybody drops everything and they come. They come quick. So I personally appreciate that response. And that partnership. Today, we had Wes Albers, a detective with the San Diego PD, unpacking what we're learning from this most recent tragedy in Florida, and we did that with our whole staff, 40 minutes. Fantastic, reflective conversation. We've done a lot. There's more still to be done when it comes to keeping our kids safe. So in that regard, I'll close by mentioning the video surveillance. At the high schools, we have systems in place, but our Associate Superintendent of Innovation and Technology, Mrs. Jennifer Burks, is going to tell us more about what you can anticipate going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mizell. My name is Jennifer Burks. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Technology and Innovation. I'm also a parent here in PUSD. I have a daughter in 7th grade. Providing our schools with state-of-the-art surveillance systems is a top priority for PUSD. Currently, we are assessing all of our equipment at each of the school sites to determine need and logistics. The cost to outfit a single school with a complete surveillance system, including cameras, cabling, servers, accompanying software, averages between $30,000 to $70,000, depending on the size of the campus. In order to meet these expenses, we are working with the San Diego County Office on potential grants, specifically for replacing the updated and the updated video surveillance systems that are currently in place. At the same time, we are looking for alternative ways and additional grants to secure funding to ensure that we have networked working surveillance systems at our schools. Internally, we are exploring ways to use funding sources to purchase and update all of our video surveillance. I will now move this along to Cindy Hicks, our program specialist of safety and prevention, as well as Detective Allensworth.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone for coming this evening. I want to take a brief moment and tell you how much Poway Unified School District appreciates you parents as partners. And I know that's a core value, and I know it's on paper, but we really believe that because we couldn't do our job unless we had you walking every step of the way with us. And I'm up here, again, you've heard Sheriff Gore and Mayor Voss talk about the tip line. We're very excited about that, but I want to talk about the culture on the school. And that's to see something, say something. We cannot act, we cannot prevent, we cannot prepare unless you're willing to be a partner. If you see something, if you hear something, if your child shares something with you, we please get it to us. Share the information. If you don't use a tip line, you can call your school. But it's imperative that you empower your children to know this is not tattling. This is preventing things from happening. And we need them to know it is okay to, if they see something, to say something. Thank you.
I'm Jess Allensworth. I'm the juvenile detective for Poway, Ramona, Forest Ranch, and Rancho Santa Fe. We already heard Mayor Voss speak about the new tip line in Poway. In addition, the Sheriff's Department uses the tip line Students Speaking Out. Students Speaking Out was designed specifically for schools and the youth through Crime Stoppers. Students Speaking Out offers the same reward program as Crime Stoppers. Students Speaking Out is accessible by phone, web tip, and the mobile app. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so as we continue throughout our presentation, as I mentioned earlier, our presentation was completely designed around the topics, the themes that we saw over and over through emails and comments and questions that parents were asking. So some of these questions didn't always fall in line with some of the themes, but we wanted to ensure that as we saw similar questions that kept coming across our desk, that we address those. So throughout our presentation, I'll come up and I'll address some questions. We are also on stage monitoring the questions that are coming in currently and to weave them into our presentation. So some of the, a question that we saw repeatedly, will school staff begin carrying firearms? The answer is no. Aside from, aside from law enforcement, both California Ed Code and Penal Code prevent firearms on campus. And I don't know if any of our law enforcement want to speak to that, but in our district, we believe that we would like to leave that to the trained people who are trained to utilize those firearms. A question, is there money allocated in PUSD's budget for safety enhancements or improvements? Yes. We have over $5 million set aside to address school safety needs across the district. Another question, and as Jennifer Burks mentioned, we are always constantly looking for grants in addition to support the needs at our schools to address the safety at all of our campuses. Can parents or the community donate money to schools to support and put in place safety measures? Yes, we welcome that. You could either donate to the PUSD District Foundation or your site-based foundation to designate that money for security and safety. And then staff would work with the principal and then the school to make sure that the equipment is aligned to district standards. We, for example, have several schools who have purchased something called a lock block, and we pass it through our risk management department. So schools have purchased lock blocks, and the district will purchase that in bulk, so that if schools do find some money or have money or like to purchase them, we will be carrying that also at the district. Is it possible to leave, in case you don't know what they are, they're like little locks that you can put on the doors and They're kind of like bolts, bolted locks, right? Is that how I describe it? Is it possible to leave the lights on later on campus to prevent crime? Where's Mr. Chad? Okay. So do you want to come up and answer that, or would you like me to answer that? So for those of you who couldn't hear, yes, we've begun reprogramming the lights to stay on longer at our school sites. We also are mindful of our city ordinances and our neighbors, but we are looking into motion sensors and things like that as we increase and improve our facilities. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about preparedness. I'm going to invite up 3 of our principals who are representing our elementary, middle school, and high school levels.
Good evening. My name is Celia Martinez, and I have the great honor to be principal at Midland Elementary. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about how we prepare our schools for emergency situations. As a representative of school campuses in PUSD, I can speak on behalf of all our site principals that preparedness for emergency situations is one responsibility that is absolutely prioritized. All our sites in PUSD, elementary and middle, all our sites in PUSD are organized into evacuation zones. We work closely with our district leadership and law enforcement to make decisions that will benefit PUSD families. All our schools create comprehensive safety plans and defined disaster preparedness plans that are approved by school site councils and PUSD's Board of Education on an annual basis. All plans follow Ed Code policy, and they are approved by our district and follow administrative procedure. Vulnerability checklists is a site evaluation tool that provides data to prioritize objectives that enhance site security. Members of the School Safety Committee collaborate on identifying safety elements that drive improvements to our playgrounds and fields, security of our buildings and classrooms, and our safety procedures. Every school conducts an evaluation of site vulnerability to assist in establishing goals for the development of the site's comprehensive safety plan. For example, several years ago, Midland Elementary had 5 entry points to our campus, 4 which had direct access to our classrooms. One landmark entry opens directly to the public of Old Town Poway. A result from our analysis of the vulnerability checklist was to limit the number of access points to our site. Currently, we now have 1 main entry point to our playground at the start of the day. This example illustrates a common challenge for many of our elementary schools in PUSD. The idea that our schools should have various entry points puts our students in our site in a vulnerable position at some of the most busiest times of day. A recommendation is a call to action for each school community to collaborate with site leadership to help secure our schools further by controlling entry points to our school campuses. Comprehensive safety plans ensure each of our sites are safe and orderly environments. These plans are made up of 2 components. The first is the social emotional component of how the climate will be addressed through counseling services and support. The second component is the physical environment, where we establish action plans to objectives that enhance security of our schools. The plans at each site include provisions for student education, staff training, simulation drills, and community awareness. The plan is designed to outline all essential components required for comprehensive school emergency preparedness, incorporating the National Incident Management System. All comprehensive safety school plans are open to public review at each site. Our disaster preparedness plans are created annually, and principals as incident commanders have the primary responsibility for overall planning, training, and management of schools in emergency situations. The disaster preparedness plans specify procedures on how to meet the site's needs during a crisis, including communication to parents and procedures for student release. The plan at any site defines various protocols, including how staff and students will handle situations such as evacuations, earthquakes, disasters, potential threats, and intruders. Every site's plan includes documentation of all drills conducted in the last year and includes specific safety procedures that are utilized for creating tactical responses and for training staff and students in drills and emergency procedures. I would like to now introduce you to Mesa Verde Middle School Principal Cliff Mitchell to speak further on staff training and drills.
Thank you, Cydia. As she pointed out, it's my honor to actually be the principal at Mesa Verde. It's a wonderful place, and one of the things that I really enjoy about Poway Unified is how collaborative we are. We may have crosstown rivals in sports, but when it comes to student safety, that is our #1 priority. Our parents have heard me say time and time again, and I know this goes against the grain, your students' safety is my #1 priority, not their education. Granted, the education is there, but it is, if our kids aren't safe, they can't learn. The neatest thing around that, though, is that all of our good, positive things that we learn from everything that we do, we share with one another. Our principals are very, very collaborative, and we are constantly engaged in dialogue. We are constantly texting back and forth, hey, how did this go? Hey, how was your day? Those types of things are key to an institution moving forward constantly. When we get back from the summer, we are constantly, that's when our staffs come in, and we're looking at that training of what do we want to do academically, what are our goals? But all of those things are also included, but we also are having conversations focused on school-wide safety. You know, we will look at the discussions around that. What do we do, again, as a reminder, around a fire drill? What do we do as Mr. Casson pointed out, that duck and cover drill and then the campus evacuation? What do we notice? What do we do if we notice someone on campus that just doesn't look familiar or isn't wearing a PUSD badge? And of course, what do we do in an event of a lockdown? We know these conversations at the start of the year can't be just one time. They can't be one-sided. And so we, as principals, I think we would all agree that we are constantly having those conversations throughout the year. When we look at our drills, we are moving forward. We are planning forward. And we're having table discussions throughout the year around those types of things. We look at different kinds of scenarios that we may face. What happens if there's a gas leak in the community? What happens if, again, the fires are hitting our neighborhoods or even our campus? And some of you may remember that we had had to have conversations around bobcats. So those scenarios are actually conversations that we have with our staffs because we want to be proactive around that. And of course, we also have conversations regarding lockdowns, and even if our law enforcement partners will call us and say, hey, we need you to lock down put your campus, secure your campus and close your classrooms so that we're protected as there may be something going on in a neighborhood. When it comes to our drills, California Education Code actually outlines how many drills we're supposed to have each year. So at the secondary level, we're supposed to have 2 fire drills, a duck and cover disaster drill, and a lockdown drill each fall and each spring. In the elementary schools, they have various drills each month. And so some of our high schools, actually I believe all of our high schools have safety weeks where they will focus, they will fill an entire week and focus those drills on safety lessons throughout, while other sites will do them throughout the year. At the secondary level, we are constantly moving forward and having conversations around that. At Mesa Verde, we actually spread them out throughout the year for our family, but also for our staffs as we look to be better at each day. To be honest, today we actually had a previously scheduled duck and cover drill. So I was actually out and about, and I didn't know when it was, and I got trapped. And so I'm in an art classroom underneath a table with 32 other students, and paint all up on top. Luckily for me, it was okay. I didn't get any paint in my hair. But then we had to evacuate our classroom. Even that layout is changing, where in the past we may just duck and cover and then evacuate. Now we're finding we're actually pausing before we exit the room, just to make sure that our ways are safe. Today, part of our, and as I mentioned, this was previously scheduled, today part of our plan was to listen to our PA system to make sure that we could hear the PA system over the sound of the alarms. As Mr. Mizell pointed out, that wah, wah, wah. We wanted to make sure that we could actually hear it so we could communicate with our staffs and our students in that emergency. So we went through various parts of the campus listening as we made announcements with the fire alarm on. It worked out great for us. Everything worked as planned. Should something not occur, what we would do is we would put in a work order with our maintenance and operations team, and they would come out as quick as they could and handle that. If one of those PA systems was out, they would handle that and get it repaired as quickly as possible. Again, it's that partnership across PUSC, that collaboration that I think makes us special. After today's drill, we gather information from staff and teachers. We come back together, we look at that, we gather feedback, and then at our next staff meeting, we would actually debrief how that went. We would look at different scenarios. What would happen if, as Mr. Casson pointed out, we had an emergency here, we went to the exit door, and that exit door is locked. Now, as adults, we all pretty much autopilot. We can't get out. We beat on the door a little bit, and we would turn and go another way. What we have to do is make sure that, number one, our students and staff are problem solvers and thinking forward. If that happens, what do we do next? So we actually run through those scenarios with our staffs, and then we share out with our staffs our next best steps. And the purpose of all of these trainings and drill opportunities really are to test our own effectiveness of our emergency response teams and our main components, including our emergency responsibilities, who are we contacting, our communication sites, our resource management, all of those things. But the biggest piece, as you've heard time and time again, is working with our communities. If we're working closely and partnering with our communities, we know that we can consistently move forward. And I'd like to thank you all for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lemaster from Rancho Bernardo High School.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Yeah, my name is Dave Lemaster. I'm the principal at Rancho Bernardo High School. I've been in this district for many, many years. I actually started my career off teaching at Poway High School. I got to oversee the construction of that school and into its modernization. I spent 2 years at Westview High School overseeing the facility there, and I've been at Rancho Bernardo High School now for 6 years, and so very familiar with the high school campuses. I've got 2 children in the district, a freshman and a senior. My brother teaches at Oak Valley Middle School. My sister-in-law teaches at Adobe Bluffs. She's expecting we soon to have another Lemaster in Poway Unified, so we just keep going. It's a family affair, if you will, so it's something that we talk a lot about in terms of school safety, in terms of what's important for us. And I want to recognize, and I know we've thanked a lot of different people for being here, but there's actually some students in the room. I see one of my former students sitting there right now, which reminds me why we're all here in the first place. So let's give a round of applause for all of our students in the room. Thank you for being here. As you are the very reason why we're here. I come to school every day and I think to myself, okay, I want to provide a safe environment for my students to feel that they can learn and they can prosper and be and who they want to be. And that's one of those things that all of our all the principals, all the district level administrators, everyone involved in your child's education is focused on. The challenges that we have, and I am familiar with this being at 3 different high schools, is when we invite different individuals to our campus, they always say the same thing. Wow, your schools are so big. They're so open. They're just so beautiful. Kids are walking out in the sun and they're basking in the glorious San Diego weather, and and people are just amazed at how amazing and open and beautiful and palm trees, and it's just like Wonderland here. And we all go, yeah, it's awesome. It's right. We don't have one building with one entry point, and we don't have walls and things enclosing our campuses are beautiful and they are open and they are really designed around where we live, and so it creates challenges, obviously, especially in today's climate. So in my particular discussion for securing campuses and controlled entry points, which a lot of questions we get on this issue is, how can you secure our campuses? Keep in mind there are 40 campuses in our district. We have elementary schools of 300 and something kids, middle schools around 1,600, all the way up to high schools where we've got 2,400 kids, not including any other additional programs that may be on our campuses. So they're obviously very large. And so when the question is asked, how can you secure your campuses? How can you make sure that you have controlled entry points? We take that seriously, and we spend a lot of time talking with individuals, meeting as schools, meeting with our staff to try to figure out what can we do to limit those entry points. We have been working at our schools to reduce the number of entry points. I know when I was at the other high schools, there were multiple different entries where kids would park in some parking lots and they would come up to the backside and kids would just kind of filter onto campus, and then all of a sudden they would go into class. Now we're really being a lot more restrictive in terms of where students can get on campus. We have hardware on our gates that allow students to get out in case of an emergency, but they can't get in. So we've locked all those doors, and we have entry points maybe in 1 or 2 places. I know a lot of our elementary schools have tried to focus their attention on one specific entry point where all students and all parents can come through. A lot of our campuses have become closed campuses where, as a parent, you can't even get onto campus. You have to be in the front office first, and then you can sign in, and then you can be on campus. So we do take these things very seriously, and we learn from every event. The historical context of Sandy Hook and what happened there, how this person got in the campus. It was a locked door. I mean, the person went through the front door and got on the campus. In this particular case, a student, in the Florida case, the student just walked onto campus with everyone else. So it's one of those things that we do try to learn from the things in the past, and so we take those things very seriously. In terms of limiting our access points, most of our students come in through 1 or 2 entry points. We've tried to reduce those at the high schools. I know it's really challenging at some of our high schools that were built in the 1990s or earlier. The check-in systems for visitors is very serious. We have many people that come in and out of our campus. Either they're visitors, or we have anywhere from FedEx, we've got UPS, we've got people who come in and volunteer in our classrooms. They all have to check in. They all have to go through the visitor sign-in system. They get their picture taken. We know where they're going to be. We know what their purpose is on campus. We've locked a lot of doors that used to remain open in the past. So I even walked up to my athletic door the other day and jiggled it, and it's like, everything is being locked and secured to try to funnel all the traffic through 2 different points. So we have been working on that, and we will continue to work on that and look for ways that we can do it. I know some of our campuses don't have fencing all around them, and I know some people have said we need to have fencing all around our schools. Well, there's cost to that, and there's things that we can look at and talk about, and we are. And like Dr. Phelps said, there is a budget for that, and we can have those conversations. So these aren't things that we're not aware of. We are very aware of them, and we are trying to be proactive and make those changes where we can. Mr. Mizell mentioned security systems, and thank you, Mrs. Burks, for looking into getting the grant, because a lot of the schools, I know some systems are really good, some are not as good, and we need to update them. Not all the middle schools perhaps have them, and so we need to make sure that we get those installed. So we are in the process of getting those, and having the lights on overnight is going to help us in terms of identifying individuals who come on our campus. As I mentioned before, parents, visitors are all required to check in. They get their badges, and we know exactly where they're going to be. And that's why we require everyone to wear badges on campus. So if we see an adult and then we don't recognize them and they don't have a visitor badge, then we can talk with them about why they're there. Off-campus passes, our students can't just leave campus. I mean, let's be honest, at a high school level, a kid can leave campus. I mean, he could potentially walk off campus, but there's going to be some consequences when he comes back. Most students who will leave campus have a pass. There's campus supervisors who are there to check the pass to make sure, okay, you are off-roll or you have a lunch off-campus pass, you are free to go. And with those 2 entry points, it's made it a lot easier for us to station our campus supervisors at the high school level to check for those students who are leaving with those passes. High schools do have, I mentioned campus supervisors. We do have 5 campus supervisors, and we have worked to station a few of them inside the campus, but then we also station them outside. They have golf courts, and they're able to monitor. So at the schools I've been at, we have 1 in the front, 1 in the back near the parking lot, 1 roaming the perimeter, and then we have 2 on the inside of the campus. And they're constantly on point looking for people who should not be on our campus or anything that is out of place. We also, some schools hire additional teachers. We can pay teachers and staff members hourly. I know we pay a couple teachers to be out in front of our campus just to make sure students are going where they need to be going and people aren't just coming onto campus that we don't know. One of the challenges that we have, and if you have a high school student, if they are ordering Uber Eats or they're ordering pizza delivered to their school, we are telling them no, or if that's really good, I will take it, but no, I'm not delivering it to your kid. You'd be surprised at how many of these things show up at our front door, and we're like, no, this is a closed campus. You cannot have your Uber Eats sent. So if you are guilty of that, please discontinue that practice. Many of our schools have volunteers. I know at the elementary school, my wife and I both volunteered. I know at the middle schools, we have volunteer people on our campus to help out in different areas. And those individuals are on campus to help provide a safer place and to provide a secure campus. And then constant evaluations and adjustments. Mr. Mitchell's right. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not communicating with my colleagues to find out what are they doing in this particular case. How can you secure this area better? What are you doing about this? We've got this facility that has this kind of constraint. What can we do? And then the North County principals meet on a monthly basis. All North County San Diego principals meet, and we have conversations openly in that meeting about what are other schools doing, what are some of the challenges they're faced with, and what can we do to learn from them so that we can make the safest campuses possible for our kids. And so it's really, really important that parents understand we are aware of some of the challenges. We are aware that there are some areas that we need to fix and we need to improve on. And the feedback, we want that. We want you to tell us what that is, but at the same time, know that we are doing a variety of things to try to secure our campus. One of the questions that came in was, can we lock the front door? I don't know. It's hard to answer that question. I think it gets challenging more and more as the more people you have on your campus. With 2,300, 2,400 kids on my campus, 150 staff members, with constant people coming in. We've got mail deliveries and we've got visitors coming in and kids coming in and parents coming in. I can't imagine people standing there knocking at the door to let each individual person in. So I don't know that that's even a possibility, nor is it something that we would want to necessarily implement. But you can definitely say that, hey, there's one entrance into this campus. It's the front door. And if you're not coming in the front door, then you don't have any business being on this campus. And we've worked towards getting there. Obviously, it's more challenging with some of our schools in the way that they're designed. But every day we're trying to figure out how can we make our schools tighter, how can we make our schools safer, and how can we make sure that those entry points are being watched. I know I stand out in front of my school at least twice a week, and I stand in the back of the school where the back entrance comes in twice a week. We have a schedule. It rotates administrators, campus supervisors, and teachers out there. So we're doing our part to make sure that there are adults on campus to protect those students that are in this audience. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to ask Jess Allensworth to come up real quick and touch on our relationship. And I've had the privilege of working since I've been across the district for 15 years. Both the San Diego County Sheriff's Department and the San Diego PD have been fantastic in their response time. When I pick up the phone and I call at 6:30 in the morning, by the time I get to school, there are already sheriffs and police officers on my campus. So let's give them a round of applause for being so present and responsive to our kids. Nice job.
All right. Every threat or report of a threat starts credible, and only through investigation is de-escalated. And District Attorney Summer is going to talk about that more in just a minute. I can share with you that the Sheriff's Department trains continuously for such critical incidents with not only our department, but we partake in multi-agency trainings also. Those trainings include one of our strongest partners, SDPD, who we share PUSD with. Safety plans and tactics are forever evolving. I have personally worked with PUSD over the last 4 years on safety plans. This has resulted in many changes that have been implemented because of our strong partnership and desire to be proactive, not reactive, when it comes to the safety of our kids. The City of Poway is a large part of that strong partnership. The City of Poway has fully funded the school resource deputy position in Poway for approximately 15 years. Our new school resource deputy is back there, Ms. Brittany Groves. The City of Poway funds 2 deputies to work the Poway High School football games and other special school events such as grad night when requested. Poway also supports and funded the first rescue task force in San Diego. That task force is made up of specially equipped and trained firefighters. The firefighters and deputies assigned to Poway train quarterly for critical incidents to provide a more rapid medical response. Another PUSD concern for the Sheriff's Department is Del Norte High School. Del Norte High School falls under SDPD's jurisdiction, but is located within blocks of the Sheriff's Forest Ranch Station. Because of the proximity, deputies have prepared for being the first law enforcement to arrive on scene of any critical incident there. This is to assist our SDPD partners. The Sheriff's Department, along with SDPD, has worked hard and passionately to not just be first responders to critical incidents, but also by being proactive departments in our communities to prevent critical incidents from occurring altogether. A few examples would be community programs such as the Sheriff's Explorers, Sheriff's Youth Advisory Group, and Hall of Champions youth camps. The San Diego County Sheriff's Department, 17 years ago yesterday, at Santana High School, changed the way critical incidents at schools were responded to in San Diego County for the better. The Sheriff's Department will continue to lead that path.
So I have some questions now. So as we're evaluating and looking at some of these questions as they're coming on, many of them will be asked, and many are still coming streaming in, will be answered throughout our presentation, but I do have some that we wrote down. So will police presence on school campuses increase in hours or frequency? It already has, and both the Sheriff Department and the Police Department have increased staffing devoted to our schools. In addition to that, I think our board president, TJ Zane, also shared that we are working in collaboration with the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, and trying to see, and the mayor, to see if we can develop a further partnership with the senior citizens and our veterans to see if we can have increased safety on our campuses. Do our schools need to have metal detectors or random backpack searches to prevent weapons on campus? So backpack searches are illegal to do without cause, and randomly searching them are considered a violation of students' civil rights. As for metal detectors, the larger question is this even practical, or is it necessary in our Poway Unified School District? And in our conversations with local law enforcement, they have said that metal detectors don't prevent weapons to getting on campus if they really want to get them onto our campuses. Is there a PUSD-wide, district-wide security plan? I know this question has been circulating around social media. So to clarify, PUSD has a comprehensive safety plan standardized across the district according to Ed Code. And then each individual site has an emergency preparedness plan specific to their campus. In regards to the questions regarding the 2013 security plan, that was actually a facility security assessment, which included an audit of procedures and practices and recommendations of safety measures. Phase 1 was completed in 2014, and it is clear that we now need a new security assessment audit to be conducted, and we are currently addressing that. What can parents do at home to better support the schools with respect to school safety in times of crisis and to prevent or reduce the frequency of events? Parental engagement is the #1 factor in student success and safety. We need your partnership. You can secure your weapons. If you have weapons at home, ensure that they're secured and locked. You can check your child's backpack periodically. You can be nosy and monitor their social media accounts and their text messaging. You can have regular conversations with them. And if you see something, you can call and say something. And I'm proud to announce that active tonight, we do have a district tip line that is dedicated to our schools, courtesy of our mayor and our partnership with the police department, San Diego PD, and our sheriff's department. Very excited about that. And you can keep your contact information at our school sites up to date. And as we shared earlier, we will have the text messaging feature available as well. So for our next section, I'd like to invite up our Deputy District Attorney, Ms. Summer Steffen, and Mr. Steve Savati, Tim Purvis, and Mr. Todd Casson.
Thank Good evening. I'm San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan, and I'm really honored to be here and to be here with all of you. What I'm going to give you is the San Diego County response to school threats. I'm going to explain a little bit about the law. I've been in the DA's office for 28 years. I rose through the ranks to become district attorney. In 2010, I handled the last school shooting that happened in San Diego County. Thank goodness it was the last school shooting. That school shooting taught us a lot. It was at Carlsbad Elementary School. I was the chief of the North County branch. And as expected, a school shooting at 5- and 6-year-olds on a playground that got 2 little girls life-flighted is shocking to the community and is horrible and hits at the heart of everybody. So I arrived to control that scene with the law enforcement and handled that case for 2 years until we prosecuted the shooter, convicted him, and sent him away for 177 years to life. But more important than that was, could we have done something to stop it? That was the question that I kept asking. And the answer was absolutely yes. So what I want to tell the parents here and the kids here is that if we pay attention, we can prevent school shootings. We can take control of our environment. And I'm going to give you the hard statistics and the reason why. I've had parents write to me, and I hope one parent who really struck a chord with me and wrote to me about how she can't look at her child and really assure them that they're safe. And that hurts me as a mother of 3, that a mother can't assure her child that they're safe. And we can't assure safety, but we can take control of the situation. And here is why. In my school shooter, he told someone repeatedly what he was going to do. And I thought this may be an aberration. Maybe that's not what usually happens. So I studied it, and I studied across the United States every single school shooting. And ladies and gentlemen, in 93% of them, they told someone and did something to alert that they planned on doing a school shooting. In 70% of the cases, they told at least 2 people, not just 1, what they planned on doing. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we absolutely have the responsibility to look at the signs, to learn the signs, to report. It's a moral responsibility that we do that. And we can't think about protecting someone or covering up, because the damage that can be done from a school shooting is not to be tolerated. So these are the statistics. The other statistics is that 95% of school shooters were a student in that school. So what does that tell you? Someone is a parent of that kid, and someone is a teacher of that kid, and someone is a friend or knows that kid. So we can't feel like we are not in control, because we are. So each parent, each teacher, each student, there are things that you must do. You must very clearly have a conversation with your child that tells them that it is illegal to make a threat towards a school. Very simply, clearly. And don't think that it can't be my child. Do it. When you get home, you talk to your child and you tell them, making a school threat is illegal. Whether you do it online, whether you tell someone, if it can possibly be communicated to someone that will be frightened by it, that's the requirement. And who wouldn't be frightened by it these days? It is a felony making criminal threats crime. It's very serious. We take it very seriously at the DA's office. I promise you, we've been able to solve each one of them. It may take some time, but we can break down anonymizers, we can break down IP addresses, we bring the catch team, we bring the sheriff's high technical cyber security, we bring in law enforcement coordination center, we bring in Captain Knighton's resources, and all together we solve each one. 45 school threats happened since 2014 before February 14 of this year. And each one of them, we were able to find out the identity of the perpetrator. They cannot hide. And the reason we have to find out the identity is because we cannot assess whether the threat is real, whether it's not real, without knowing the identity. This is why we don't take any threat as just a joke. So once we solve it, 20 of those cases were prosecuted for felony making of criminal threats. Some of the others were handled administratively because all of the elements weren't met, but we still intervened. And the reason you don't hear about what happened is because most of these happen in juvenile hall, where there is privacy that attaches to young people. Because the goal is to make sure we take them off the criminal threat path and we bring them into the fold as healthy students. The other reason that you have control over this is that 75% of school shooters have done it, or part of their motivation is that they were bullied and tormented. So parents and students, you can take ownership of making sure that kids aren't bullied. Right? So you have that power. You have a lot of power because the statistics tell us that you are in control. This is a shared responsibility with all of us. Our team, we have a dedicated team, and Andrea Lopez is here because we are your county-wide prosecutor across this whole county. We know of every incident in every school in this county. And we get involved, we take action, and while you cannot measure the success of preventing harm, of the 45 cases, we study these and we feel pretty comfortable that in at least 2, we prevented disaster. Working together with Sheriff Gore, the police department, the schools. How dedicated are your teachers and counselors? Incredible. I'm honored to be here, but you are in charge, so take charge. Thank you.
Thank you, District Attorney Stefan. My name is Steve Salvati. I'm the Director of Risk Management for Poway Unified School District. The portion that I'll speak on is the district's Emergency Operations Center. So the district maintains and runs an Emergency Operations Center. We call it an EOC. It's located at the district office, and we can activate it as needed to coordinate communication and resources, and can be activated on either a larger or a smaller scale, excuse me, depending upon the nature of the situation. So the EOC is typically activated when a situation involves multiple schools or is expected to last, excuse me, for a prolonged period of time. So district staff involved in the EOC include the superintendent, the associate superintendents, executive directors, the management staff, directors of transportation, communications, risk management, food and nutrition, human resources, excuse me, special education, early childhood development, and many others. There are staff assigned to serve as a liaison role with the affected school sites as well and with first responders. Oh, thank you. I need it. Thank you. And other public agencies. So following me will be Tim Purvis, our Director of Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Salvati. Parents and community, thank you very much. It's my privilege to lead about 190 team members that protect your children long before the school day starts and long after the school day ends, as well as evening activity trips and field trips. I've been placed under response, but truth be told, our reaction starts with our preparedness capability. In the recovery phase of an incident or threat, the district's transportation team is capable and has practiced experience having evacuated PUSD school facilities on several past occasions. Depending on how long you've been in our district, we've been ravaged by fires 3 times, twice severely, and once involving a large evacuation within the city of Poway and again in the Forest Ranch area. And twice in those cases, the transportation team began evacuation processes long before the school day started and before our EOC was even activated. And it was because of the request and our partnerships pre-established with our municipality governments and surrounding school districts that allowed us the capability to do that very successfully. Nearly all imminent care facilities within the Rancho Bernardo care area, or San Diego area, I'm sorry, were evacuated with PUSD school bus drivers. To be exact, over 85% carried to evacuation centers within San Diego and Orange County. The district's fleet of vehicles is GPS monitored and allows for real-time assessment of positioning for evaluating our resources and placement during an event of immediate recovery. Folks, this is not just 151 school buses, it involves over 400 pieces of equipment. The district and our board has supported the use of very sophisticated technology. I would gander a guess PUSD's fleet not only being the 3rd largest in size in the county, but also probably amongst the best capable of being positioned, tracked, and assigned. It was because of this that in the forest fire areas, we already had subfleet resources positioned before our emergency call went to evacuate those sites. On the second slide, you'll see a data box. It's probably a little hard to see there, but that data box comes up on each district vehicle asset, be it a bus, be it a food service vehicle, be it a maintenance and ops vehicle, etc., showing exactly where that vehicle is at, where it's traveling, and whether or not it's in response time. Why is that important to us? Because the protection of your kids and the use of a school bus for something not so good is of an ultimate concern to us, and we want to know if it goes outside of communication and we can identify it at any given time. Just in the last 30 days, an assessment was done of the People Transportation Program in cooperation with the Department of Homeland Security to help us identify where our strengths and weaknesses lied, followed up by an event surprising our staff to see how we would react to unidentified objects being positioned in our buses over the evening. Staff responded extremely well. With that, I'd like to reintroduce Todd Casson.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to go back for just a second while Mr. Lemaster was talking about the importance of Uber Eats on his campus. We forgot to really talk about something that we prepare with, and as a former site principal, something that I knew was my greatest resource, and that was my partnership with my school resource officer. We have several officers here tonight, both from Poway and the San Diego Police Department. If you could stand up really quick and be recognized. I truly believe this partnership is unique, and I found that again this morning at 8 o'clock as I was in Jess Allensworth's office and we were talking about an issue. So we have that open communication. It's 2 ways. And I was the former principal of Westview High School, and I worked with the San Diego Police Department. And I can tell you it was my relationship with that officer, and that was Officer Bob Briggs. When we would go through and look at everything we did for safety on the campus, first thing he would tell me is, Todd, why aren't you looking at this? Todd, did you think about this? We have an issue on campus. What do you think my response was? Call Bob. I need Bob here. It became a very, it was something that I really was dependent on. I needed his insight. I'm an educator. I went to school to become an educator. I didn't have a law enforcement background. We did a drill one time on our campus. Bob looked at it and said, I can't believe how well your students are moving to the rooms that they need to be moving into. He sat up in our library, looked down, and then came back to me and said, where's your staff? I said, what are you talking about, Bob? It's like, where's your staff? I want to see them. Where are they locking down at? Where's your office staff? Walked into one room where most of my entire office was in one room locked down. Why do you do that? It was a great resource for me to start opening my mind and say, how can we change this for the better? So thank you to both the San Diego Police Department and the Poway Sheriffs. We are so lucky to have a relationship with you like this. All right, I think I talked about this earlier. In a response, even back in 1995 when I started to teach, we were prepared for a fire drill and an earthquake drill. Do you think, does it change much? We still do it. We still practice for those fire drills. We still duck, cover, and hold. You heard Mr. Mitchell. I'd like to have seen some paint on that head today. Moving on, lockdown. I can remember this one coming in mostly after Columbine. And looking at that, all the things we're asking our kids to do. This is a lockdown. Our schools take this very seriously. Our students take this very seriously. My campus, my former campus, I apologize, last year was in a lockdown for nearly 2 hours. Those are scary situations for those kids. But I can tell you, as we released, I would walk into a room and have a hard time finding where the kids were in a classroom. They did such a good job. Secure campus. I wish I would have had this one about 3 years ago when I got a call from the police that said there's a bank robbery in process about a mile from your school. We want you to lock down. Now we secure the campus, secure the perimeter, keep kids in class. We can still keep working. The threat was not on campus, it was off campus. We also have evacuation. And as a former principal, my site was where students came to when they were evacuated from their site. And you heard from Mr. Purvis right before me. And one of the things will always stick in my head, we were talking, he gave me a call. He's part of the Operations Command Center. Your site needs to be opened up. We're bringing elementary kids to your school right now. My concern was, how are you getting all the buses there? Everything else is going on in this district. How are you doing that? Tim's comment to me, it still sticks in my head. The buses are down the street ready to go to evacuate that entire campus. That's the kind of people we have working, and I thank you, Tim. That one stuck with me. As we move on to a reunification plan, sometimes we have to be prepared after an emergency. When can we reunite our students with their parents and guardians? We must be prepared because it can take place on our campus or it might take place off campus. Our sites designate an alternate location in their safety plans, but is it important to remember that this is a very fluid situation? Meaning, when we did the fires, where is a safe location that we can go and take these kids right now? Because I've had to evacuate my own campus, if you think about the last few years with the fire. I know Rancho Bernardo was a place that we took kids. Then we ended up having to take a group all the way over to Torrey Pines so we could get them reunited as we go through. Communications from the district will be sent to parents to notify them of the location and times for the reunification process to begin. One last thought on that is there's a lot of people coming at the same time. It's something that we want to make sure we're accounting for every single student as we're releasing to their parents. So I just ask that you work with us in the case of a reunification, that sometimes it doesn't look nearly as orderly as what you see on that photo right there. So thank you very much, and I believe I'm passing it back to Ms. Christine Peck.
Thank you, Todd. So I'm the water girl that you saw earlier and the picture taker. But my title is Director of Communications for the Poway Unified School District. And, you know, some of those messages that you guys receive, that's from me. And I'm proud to work here, and my children also attend PUSD schools. So I'm going to cover what I didn't think was controversial until I joined the district, because communication can be controversial too. And I'm sure you guys all have opinions on how maybe some communication was handled in past incidents. So I will be covering parent, staff, and student communication, as well as some of the texting that's on the horizon, as well as social media. I think now that you know what kind of goes on behind the scenes in a response, in a crisis response, I'm going to say something that's not going to be especially popular, but it's going to be true. And I hope as parents you understand this, that safety will always come first, but that also means sometimes the need to know will not supersede safety. That means that when there's a crisis on the campus, you want your principals and administrators and staff focusing on whether the school is safe, whether your kids are secure, before they're running off to their office to send out messages. That's where I come in, and I do come to campuses to help. We have a responsibility to provide accurate information, but in a timely manner. I know that you as parents want to know as soon as possible, but I will not put out information or misinformation without confirmation of facts. I realize that in this day and age of social media, texting, you may hear from your neighbor or your Facebook friend or your student before you hear something official from us. We are working to improve that timeline. Let me walk you through what happens in communication in a crisis. So first, obviously, the school calls law enforcement, and the school calls the district office, and a team of us will deploy to the school. Again, school and law enforcement are focusing on safety and security, but once law enforcement can confirm details to us, we will craft an official message on behalf of the school or the school district. We will always concentrate on messaging first to the staff and families at the affected school via email and the mass notification system. New for fall 2018, you will be asked to opt in for text messaging as part of our mass notification system. Please check yes if you want to receive texts in emergencies. Following that, we will post any social media updates. If you don't follow us on Facebook and Twitter, please do so at Poway Unified. If any of you are in the room, are influential on social media, or our page administrators, please follow us on our page so you know the latest information if rumors start to develop. When necessary, we will notify staff and parents throughout the district if the event is large enough or significant enough where we feel like the entire district needs to know. And then we will answer media inquiries. One question that I get often is, how does the media find out about certain events before our parents or staff do, or before the official communication goes out? As a former member of the media, let me explain. Media and law enforcement, or media, are constantly monitoring law enforcement scanner traffic. That's one way we find out where breaking news is happening. In addition, many media members are parents in our community and receive texts from their neighbors and their children as well. So I just wanted to explain that because we received several questions about that. One thing I need your help on. Please think twice about posting. I want you to look through this discussion that happened recently. It is a real discussion. It was posted on Facebook. And the question was, supposedly there was an arrest at Del Norte today for a student who was threatening to shoot up the school. Does anyone have any information on this? You know, you can see the comments like, oh my goodness, yikes, how did you hear this? Seriously. So this is already creating fear and concern. At some point, somebody chimed in, recommended calling the school to find out or confirm that information. And then you can find out at the end of the discussion, it was West Hills High in Santee. So how does West Hills High in Santee become Del Norte High School? So I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I just want to show you this, to ask for your help in thinking twice about posting. Help us limit rumors, spreading gossip or inaccuracies, and please help us share official information once we do post it for our parents on our page. And I'll welcome Dr. Phelps back for some more question and answer.
Thank you, Christine. You know, Ms. Peck is absolutely an essential part of our leadership team. Many districts are not fortunate enough to have a communications director, and having a communications director in a district this size is absolutely critical in the role that she plays and how she supports our schools. So I want to thank you for all of that. So we do have some more questions, and one of those questions that kept coming up in our feed was that can schools or the districts communicate quicker to notify parents of the threats. And I just want to reiterate what Ms. Peck said, is that our need to know will never supersede the need to address safety on our school for our students. I had a situation personally where there was a fire in our neighborhood, and my parents, the very nosy parents that I have, very involved parents that I have, wanted to desperately know, is everything okay? Is your daughter okay? Is your husband okay? Is the house okay? And I couldn't stop to text my parents, because my priority was to get my child out of my house, to get any pets out of my house, to ensure that I got my valuables out of my house, to ensure that the fire, law enforcement and fire were there to help, put out the fire. My priority was not to take the time to stop and text my parents to let them know what was happening so that I would lose everything. So we have to please know that we take every threat seriously. We take every situation seriously, but our priority is to address the safety matter at hand. And we as a district will continually to work hard to get notification and information out as quickly as we can. But as Ms. Peck said, our absolute obligation is to ensure that we verify facts and we put out accurate information and not quickly react and have to clean up or send out multiple messages that are inaccurate. So we are committed to that. Can the school or district communicate the disciplinary measures taken against students who make threats? And can the district issue an explanation to parents once the investigation is complete? We are unable to share specific disciplinary measures that we take with students due to student confidentiality laws. However, know that there are two different processes when a student makes a threat. There's the criminal one through law enforcement and the district attorney's office. And as you heard earlier, it is a felony. And they will face consequences through the law enforcement and district attorney's office. And then there's the school and school district. And those disciplinary actions are, we follow those guidelines as well too, and are unable to make that public. Both will ensure the maximum of punishment. And once the investigation is complete, the school can send out a communication and or hold a debrief meeting. Another question, can we postpone or cancel school until after law enforcement does a full investigation into whether a threat is not credible? I think we were going to have a principal answer that, but no, we can't cancel school every time we receive a threat. Because if every time we receive a threat and we cancel school, guess what? We'll get a threat all the time, because unfortunately, like the one that happened on Monday at RB High School, was very predictable because we were on break last week, and so we didn't get any, but the Monday we came back, we got one. But many San Diego schools got one during the week that we were off. And it's really unfortunate. So no, we're not going to entertain the goal and allow them to be satisfied to cancel school or to disrupt school, but I assure you that we do take it seriously, and as fast as possible, law enforcement, if there is a threat that is credible, we will delay or cancel school. If they deem that it is not credible, there is no need to cancel. And that's what we found in the situation at RB High School, that early on, as soon as the principal worked with the police, they deemed that the threat at RB High School was not credible. Therefore, even though we had the majority of our students go home or stay home, we did continue and allow students who did come to school to stay there. If there is an emergency at an athletic event, what happens? So CIIF requires us to have plans in place for emergencies. Many large events, we have officers, we have added security at the scene. We also have staff around who will direct everyone to the nearest exits and proceed with our safety measures at that time. Do we have age-appropriate resources to talk to students about safety? I think Fran or Cindy probably can address that better for me, but we will address those details in our FAQs on our website. So with that now, I'd like to bring up Fran, Chad Koster, and Dr. Robertson.
All right, I am back up here to speak to you about our crisis response team. I don't know how many of you were aware that we have a pretty large crisis response team, and we've had it for over 20 years. We had it, I think, when I first arrived, which I'm not going to tell you when that was because that'll tell you my age, but we've had it for a really long time. The purpose of the crisis response team is to support our students and staff and our parents and our community during a crisis, but also in the aftermath. We are working with the school sites to try to return those students and staff in the school site to normal functioning as early as it's possible. Most of our crisis team members are healthcare professionals. They are all district employees as well. Many of our principals and assistant principals, administrators have been trained in crisis response so that in the event they have something on their campus, they'll be able to address it as well. It's up to the school sites to decide if they want the crisis response team. There's already mental health professionals on every single campus. So in some events, they might determine that they'll be able to manage what's happening on the campus on their own. In other instances, however, they'll call the team in, and that is, again, site dependent. The number of people that arrive depends on the situation. The number of days that we stay there depends on the situation. So that kind of increases and decreases based on the needs of the school site. Over the years, we've had to be called out to sites for many different kinds of events, some very tragic and sad. Deaths of students are always very difficult. Deaths of parents really impact a lot of our kiddos. And of course, deaths of a staff member. We've also had to support schools when there's been safety threats to try to restore things back to normal routine. And of course, if you've been in San Diego for any amount of time, in 2003 and 2007, we had wildfires that shut our schools down for a week. In the incident in 2003, we had 2 crisis response team members at every one of our school sites to support those students and staff. Everyone's trained that's on the crisis response team. We do that every year. We just had training this last year. We had 2 of them. One of them we had a refresher training because our team members want to really keep their knowledge up to speed and up to snuff. So we had 33 people that went to the refresher training in December, and then we had 43 brand new members added to our team, went through comprehensive training in January. We based the crisis response team protocols on a national model called the Critical Incident Stress Management System, and it's really kind of the standard of care to work with traumatized people. It's an effective form of psychological first aid to relieve harmful effects of a traumatizing or tragic event. So it's a great team members. They do great work. super committed and dedicated to the safety and well-being of our kiddos. Mr. Coster, the Director of Facilities.
All right, thank you very much. So my name's Chad Coster. I'm the Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations, and I'll be pretty brief here tonight. But as you've heard, right, everything we do is a very integrated and layered approach as we go through this. In the recovery phase of an incident, threat, or vandalism, our facilities team will go on each campus and assess the condition of the campus, assess the condition of the facilities, and really take any necessary actions we need to restore that campus to a safe, welcoming environment for our kids. We continue to evaluate all of our physical security systems on each one of our campuses, and we work very closely with our principals, as you've heard, as well as our local security professionals and partners to ensure we have campus safety. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Mel Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Coster. Good evening to all of you, and I really appreciate you being here. This is a very important topic to all of us. My name is Mel Robertson, and I have had the pleasure and privilege of serving students in the Poway Unified School District for many, many years, and I won't tell you how many. But it's such a great place to be. As you've heard tonight from many people, there are multiple groups of experts that are activated and into motion, and they are activated and into motion at the first word of anything when there's a crisis that occurs at any of our campuses. What's really important about all these people that come together is there's a collaboration, and what's so important about the collaboration is that it elevates the expertise of the team, whoever it is that's working together. Everyone has an expertise that they bring together, and it makes our response even greater to the safety of our students. What I was really excited about is people have already talked about the fire. So Mr. Purvis had talked about the fire and evacuating our schools. They went to Westview and Rancho Bernardo High School. So there was a group of people there using their expertise and moving our students into safety. The other piece that we didn't talk about in terms of safety that Mr. Coster just alluded to a little bit is our principals were reporting to us that there was ash and soot everywhere. It was all over the desks, all over the campus, and so we had to evaluate that, and immediately the facilities department sent in teams of people, and we cleaned it all up, we took care of the air ducts, we checked the air quality, because I think that's something that sometimes people don't think about, but so critical and so important for our kids to come back to a safe learning environment after whatever's happened. So what happens in a school continuation plan? All the experts come back together. We make sure that we have tended to everything, and we always make sure that we have counselors on call for anything that may need. We will deploy them to whatever schools. We don't know how these crises are going to affect our students, so we want to make sure that we're all there. So is there a continuation plan? I can tell you right now the answer is no. Because what it is, it's a constant assessment, and it evolves with every action throughout the crisis. It will be different. What's important that is fluid and with the goal of ensuring the safety of our students and team. And as teams make decisions, Ms. Peck talked about how communication comes out. We will communicate with the staff and families. So that's what the school continuation plan looks like. Again, it's bringing us all together and making sure that we have assessed everything, facilities, the supports we need for schools, etc., are in place before we actually call for school. So at this point, I'd like to bring back our superintendent, and thank you again for being here.
So one question that keeps coming up over and over is, how does the police or how does the district know whether a threat is credible or not credible? Well, I'll just tell you, we invited up the detective to answer that, but I'll just tell you right off the bat, I don't know if some of you do, but I watch Criminal Minds with my husband. And I always say, oh my gosh, this is a horrible show because bad people get really bad ideas from shows like this, and this is what they do. I think sometimes if we reveal all of our secrets and our tactics of how we determine something is credible, I just want to forewarn you that we also don't want to educate people on how to make things look like it's credible or not credible. So keeping that in mind, we do want to address your questions, but also to keep that in mind as well. But here's Detective Allensworth to address that question.
Thank you. Actually, she took some of what I was going to say. You know, unfortunately, we deal with a lot of this stuff, more than you ever hear about. As far as credible versus non-credible, there's a lot of things I can't talk about. Again, we don't want to educate people on it. As far as how we respond to things, I know it's constantly in question. I watch the news, I hear it, I see it, I get the questions out in public every day. I can tell you this. I wasn't going to talk about it before, but I can tell you this. Earlier I mentioned Santana High School. I was there. I saw it firsthand. I was on the team that went in. I don't ever want to see it again. So when a threat comes in, to me it's credible until we step it down from there, okay? And that, again, is only through investigation. We have, you know, not just your families are there, our families are there, okay? Everybody here has family. I'm connected to several people in the audience. I see Savannah sitting there. I coached her in soccer when she was a little girl. She goes to the schools that I go to every morning and stand out front. So we take it seriously. And it's not just me, it's the department. You know, we're trained to do certain things, and that morning, March 5th, 2001, when we went in, that was something we discussed ahead of time. Okay, so again, I can't talk about everything, but I can leave you with that.
So I hope throughout our presentation we were able to successfully weave in some of your questions as well as address some of them out loud. Those of you that we weren't able to address your questions, I know that you may still have some. You're welcome to post those on our website still. We do have some upcoming school sites. We know our school sites are unique, and so we do have upcoming school site safety meetings and forums where there'll be a little bit more intimate, so that if you do have site-specific questions, we do have your principals and your school staff and teachers available to answer those questions. We will also have all of these dates posted on our website as well too, and every single school will be holding their own safety forum. In addition to, I know that many of you took the time to come out this evening, and some of you may still have some burning questions. I've asked staff to stay a little bit after this presentation and stand in the front of the stage up there, and if our principals can make themselves available along the side of the room, that if you see your principal and you have a question, or if you want to address questions to district staff or law enforcement, we will stay a little bit after to help assist you in addressing any questions. We do want to be available. I want to thank everybody for coming out to show your interest in our schools and your support to helping us ensure that our schools do remain and maintain safe. We want you to know we care, and our staff worked really hard to put this together very quickly to ensure that we can address the concerns in our community. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our law enforcement partners and the city of Poway and the city of San Diego for all of their support. Again, we have our new tip line that's in place. We're working on partnerships with both City of Poway and San Diego to increase patrol and our safety patrol resources and personnel, utilizing veterans and our seniors on our campuses. We will share all this information, FAQ on our website. We will also have video of this presentation available on our website as well too. And I just want to thank you for your partnership in working together to help keep our schools and our students safe. I want to thank you on behalf of Poway Unified for coming this evening, and hopefully we were able to address some of your concerns and your questions, and we will stay to be available to help address any further questions. Thank you, and have a safe evening.